Hello everyone, good morning. Sharing my screen. So we started off with AR invoice report build yesterday. We were building a BA publisher report, and we are building an AR invoice print report as an example. And where do you build the report from? You have to build it from a reports and analytics work area. So you go into tools, click on reports and analytics. And click on browse catalog. And in here, in the shared folders, you have a custom folder, and we have created a new folder in there. Under custom folder, we have created a new folder. We created the safety 14 folder. And in this folder, we created a data model yesterday. So we have started off with a data model build. And yes, in a BIP report, first you need to create a data model, which will pull the data from a database, and it will pull it in XML format. So what is the report output? Client has already given you a sample output as well. They would have told you in what format they're expecting the output to be generated. Okay, so let's say the client has given you this output. Okay, they want AR invoice print report to be generated in a PDF format, in this particular format. So at the moment, we have created a data model which is only pulling the invoice header level details, right? But we need to add in a few more queries to pull in the line details as well as the bill to details and the ship to details. Okay, to do that, let me open the invoice in the application. I want to open up the invoice and keep it open in this session. So we go to billing screen, receivables, billing. And you go to manage transactions. Search for a specific invoice called 5001. And we use this invoice to build the queries to see if the queries that we are building are correct or not. So pick up 5001 and do a search. Open the transaction. And if I run the report that we have built, if I go ahead and run the query, there is only one query which is pulling the invoice header level details, right? And what details are being pulled? The currency details, BU name, transaction number, and transaction date. And these details are matching with what you are seeing on screen here. Okay, the BU is Dinesh USBU, transaction number 5001, currency USD, and a transaction date is 18th February. Now let's go ahead and add in another query to pull the line details. So the line details, as we have seen in the documentation yesterday, the lines information is stored in a table called RA customer transaction lines, right? So you go into the diagram. So in this query, we have used RA customer transactional table, right? We used RA customer transactional table. This contains the invoice details, and the table that contains line details is RA customer transaction lines underscore all. Okay, this contains the invoice line details. Okay, so all you have to do is pick up that query, go back into the data model, add in a new query, call it SQL query, and you say AR invoice lines, and change the data source to FSCM and do a select star from the lines table and click on OK. And here we are not restricting the rows or the columns for this query. We are just doing the select star from array customer transaction lines table. Okay. So if you go to the data tab and print the output now, view the output, go to table view. The first query, a header query, is returning only one row because we are printing a specific transaction number from a specific BU. But if you look at the lines query, it is pulling 5 lines randomly from the invoice lines table. So this query is not linked to this query now. So, or to help you understand this, let me include a customer transaction ID column in this. Let's include a column called rct.customer transaction ID. So this customer transaction ID acts as a link between invoice and the invoice lines table. So in this table and in these two tables, there will be a field called for every customer, a customer transaction that you create or invoice. There will be a ID populated in these two tables called customer transaction ID. This ID will be available in the array customer transactional table and the lines table. So we will be using this to join the header query and the lines query. So for that reason, I'm pulling array customer transaction ID column from here. And you have the customer transaction ID column in the lines table as well. And we will be joining these two queries with the help of this ID in a while from now. But if you go to the data tab, we still don't have any link between these two queries now. And those two queries work as an independent data sets. So the first query is printing 5001 and the second query is printing 5 random lines from an invoices table. If you look at 5001, the transaction ID for 5001 is ending with 432. But if you look at these lines do not belong to 432 transaction ID. It belongs to some other transaction. So how do you fix this? How do you ensure that only the lines that belong to this transaction gets printed? So in other words, how do you link this query with this query so that only the lines of this transaction will be printed? The way you achieve it is, for that to link any two queries, you need to have a common column. And the customer transaction ID is a common column between the invoice table and the invoice lines table. So you take out the customer transaction ID from a header query and you drop it on the lines query. And you see that a link gets established like that. And if you put your mouse on top of it, you will see the customer transaction ID join that gets added. And if you go into the data tab now the queries work together. Now there is a link between lines and header. And if you look at the table view, you could see that there is only one line printed. Even the second query is written only one row because on the invoice 5001 invoice, you just have only one line. So that line is printed here. And what details do we need to print from the line section? We need line number, description. We need 6 columns from the lines table, right? So let's pull those 6 columns. So what do? We copy this query. You paste it in there. Give an alias name. You can say RCTL. And what columns do we need to pull? We go to the data tab and let's copy the column names from there. We need to copy the line number. So copy that field. Comma. And we need the description. Copy it. And apart from description, what do we need? We need quantity. So look at the quantity field in the lines table. You have quantity invoiced. Copy it. Paste it there. And you see unit selling price. Copy it because we need unit price as well. Copy it and paste it to the query. And we need line type as well. So pick up the line type column from a lines table and copy it to your query. And what else do we need? We also need the amount column. So look at the lines table and see if there is any amount column in there. Yes, there is an amount column. Copy it and paste it in your query. So what are we doing here? Earlier we were pulling all the columns from lines table using star, but we don't need all the columns. We just need 6 columns from the lines table to display in the output. So we'll pull only those 6 columns. And apart from these 6 columns, we will also need to pull the customer transaction ID. We will also need to pull the customer transaction ID because we need this column to link a lines table with the header table. Okay, so we are pulling 6 columns that we need to display in a report output, and we have included customer transaction ID to link the lines table with the header table. So you copy this query, go back to the data model and paste it in there. Just save the report, go to the data tab and view the output now. And if you view the output in tabular format, you can see the customer transaction ID now. Yes, we are looking at the line. We are looking at the lines of 5001 transaction number because customer transaction ID is same. And what details do you see in the report output now? So you see the line number as 1, description test, quantity invoiced 1,000, unit price extended amount 1,000. 1,000 unit price and the line type is line and the total amount is 1,000. And you can also give alias name to these columns, similar to how we did yesterday. Okay, so you can give alias names to the table. You can probably call this as line number. You can leave it as is. Description also you can leave it as is. For quantity, you can give an alias name of quantity instead of calling it as quantity invoiced. And for unit selling price, you can call it as unit price. Line type is fine, and extended amount, you can call it as amount. You can give an alias name to the columns like this. Copy it, change the query, save it, and look at the data out. So if you go to the table view, you will be able to see the information printed. So yes, we were able to pull 2 details now. We were able to pull the invoice header details and the invoice line details. But apart from these 2, so we can in this PDF document, we have information to print this section and this section as well. But we need these 2 details as well, like the bill to customer details and the ship to details. So the way it works is in ERP Cloud, when you create a transaction, when you create an invoice, on the invoice table or in the invoice table, you will not have all the details of the customer and bill to customer and ship to customer stored. Okay, so you will not have the bill to customer name, the account number, address details. You don't have these customer name and address details, both bill to and ship to. That will not be stored in invoice table. Instead, what you will have in the invoice table is there will be a couple of reference columns. So in the invoice table, you have a bill to site use ID, you will have a bill to ID, and you will have a ship to ID. Okay, so you will have a bill to ID and a ship to ID. With the help of those 2 IDs or with the help of those IDs, you need to write a different query to pull the bill to details. So this bill to customer will have an ID, right? That ID will be stored in the invoice table. So with that ID, you go and search in the customer tables. Okay, so customer, it follows a TCA architecture in ERP Cloud, and it's a quite complicated architecture. To create a customer, there are a number of things you need to do. You need to first create a location, then party site, and then you create an account site, and all those details. So you need to query those customer tables, and you will pass on the bill to ID that is stored on this invoice. Okay, so there will be a bill to ID and a ship to ID references stored in the invoice table. You pass those IDs to the customer tables and you pull this information. So I have written 2 queries, a bill to customer, 2 queries to pull the customer details. One query pulls the bill to customer details and another query pulls the ship to customer details. So let me share this SQL file with you guys. Let me share it in the chat before I miss it. If you go to VIP reports, I think share the queries with you guys. So what I did is I wrote two queries, one to fetch the bill to customer details and another one to fetch the ship to customer details. So let me just walk you through these queries. So yeah, the queries, writing the queries can be, you might be required to write simpler queries like this in most of the scenarios. Like here in the case of invoice header details, we just had to link two tables and pull the invoice header details. And for the case of invoice lines, we just had to pull all the columns from a single table. You will be writing a simpler queries like this most of the scenarios, but in some cases wherein if you have to pull details of a customer, which is a complex data entity, you might have to join in multiple tables related to customer. And those multiple tables, again, each and every table that you have in the from clause needs to be linked together. Okay, so if you have 5 tables, you will have at least 4 join conditions here. Okay, linking those tables. So if I take out this bill to query for a customer, again, let me show you a TCA architecture once. The way customer follows a TCA architecture. Customer follows a TCA architecture. TCA stands for Trading Community Architecture. So it is a sort of a data model structure which customers follow in ERP Cloud. And when you have to create a customer, focus on these entities. So you don't create directly a customer account in ERP Cloud. What you do is normally you first create a party and then you create a party site. And when you create a party site, there will be a location attached. A location needs to be attached to party site. So these 3 will be the ones that you create first when you create a customer manually in UI. These 3 tables gets populated. And after that, you create a customer account and an account site. Okay, so this customer account gets linked to party and account site gets linked to the party site. So these 5 tables, these 5 or 6 tables are the key tables which store the customer information. And if you look at this query, I have queried those tables here. Okay, so I've queried the parties table, party sites, customer account site, site users, and locations table. And what did I do? I have joined those tables here. And I am looking for a site with a usage of bill to. So when you create a site, again, you tell you have to mention in ERP Cloud whether you want to use that site as a bill to or a ship to. So since I'm fetching the bill to details, I am looking at only the sites which have a bill to usage defined. And what do I do in here? So this query, if I don't pass in any input, what will it pull? It will pull all the bill to customer details, right? But I don't want to do that. I want to, first I'll add in this query. This will pull all the bill to customer details. And what I do is, after that, I will link this query up with the first query. And in the first query, remember in the invoice table, you have bill to reference, right? So I will use this column to join bill to customer query with the invoice header query. So I go ahead and add this query, the bill to query. Go to diagram. You can say AR bill to customer details, and you select it as select FSCM and you paste in the query and click on OK. So this query will pull the bill to customer details for me. So you have invoice query and you have invoice lines query. And apart from that, we need bill to details and the ship to details, right? So I've added another query to pull the bill to details. But to pull this bill to details, yeah, if I go ahead and run this, header and lines queries are linked together, but not the bill to customer details. So if I go ahead and run the data model, I go to table view, you see that there are five random customers are getting pulled, right? So we have not yet linked this query with the main query. So in the invoice header table, you will have a bill to and a ship to customer ID references. So you will pull those IDs here in the main query. And for that particular bill to customer ID, you will pull the details from this bill to customer details query. You will pass on that bill to ID to this query, which pulls the bill to customer details. And you will be getting as an output, you will be getting all these bill to details. Okay, so you go ahead, let's go ahead and add to our main query couple of fields. We need to add the bill to site use ID and a ship to ID. Edit it, and let's add in 2 columns. So what did we do? We have added a bill to ID and a ship to ID. So I will pass on this bill to ID as an input to the bill to customer details query. And now this query will pull only the bill to customer details of this particular invoice. So go ahead, go to the data tab and run it. Go to table view, and you're able to see that the bill to customers details are pulled now. So if you're looking at a complex query like this for the first time, after the session, probably sit down in the evening and spend around half an hour trying to understand how we have linked these tables. So it's quite simple. All you need to do is identify what tables are used and how those are linked together. So in real time, you won't be writing queries which are as complex as this on a daily basis. In fact, you get these queries or queries of this sort readily available in Google or support.oracle.com. Okay, so you don't need to write it yourself. Add it in. And on a similar note, let's add another query to pull the ship to details. So it's a similar query to this, wherein I'm hitting the customer tables with a ship to reference, and I'm looking for a ship to site. So this query, again, by default, it will pull all the ship to sites. And then I'll add in this query, and then I will pass in this ship to reference to that query as input to the ship to details query, so that the ship to customer details of the invoice will be pulled. So go ahead and add in a query. You can say AR ship to details. You can say ship to details. And paste in the query. Okay. And another query is added. You can bring it down, and you can link this query with the main query. You can pass in the ship to ID from the invoice table to the ship to details query and link them up. And once you link them up, you will see a link icon appearing it there. So we have 4 queries now. One query fetches the invoice details. We are fetching the invoice ID, bill to ID, and a ship to ID here. We are using invoice ID, and we are trying to pull the invoice line details from the invoice lines table. And we are using the bill to customer ID and a ship to customer IDs, and we are trying to pull the bill to customer details and the ship to customer details. And now, if we go ahead and run the query, go to the data tab, go to table view, you will be able to see the transaction details, lines, you will be able to see the bill to customer details and the ship to customer details. So now I have everything I need to generate a PDF output like this. But there are a few more things that you have to do in the data model. Okay. So the first thing is, whenever I go into the data tab and whenever I run the report, I'm getting the output. I'm getting only 5001 transaction number as an output, right? Why is that so? That's because in the main query, you have hard coded the business unit name, and you have hard coded the transaction and you have hard coded the transaction number as well, right? So the business unit name is hard coded and the transaction number is hard coded. So, but in real time, you would want, but when user runs this report, we want user to be able to pick up the business unit name and the transaction number he wants to run or he wants to print. So we want to receive these 2 options, these 2 values as parameters. So to do that, what you have to do is, you have to take out the hard codings. And there are 2 ways you can do this. One way is, you can create parameters and you can use those parameters within the query. Or you don't need to create a parameter. Instead, within the query, you just change them to bind variables. Parameters will get automatically created. So if you go to a query, say I want this business unit name to be received as a parameter. So what do? I put in a colon. I use P underscore to indicate that it's a parameter that I'm going to receive. And I say BU name. And similarly for the transaction number, I put in a colon, and that's how you read the values from parameters. And you put P underscore to indicate that it's a parameter, and you say transaction number. So what am I doing here? I've taken out the hard codings of a BU name and a transaction number, and I am parameterizing it. And if I click on OK now, what the data model will do is it will look at the bind variables, and it is able to find two bind variables. Bind variables means the ones that start with a colon. And it will ask you whether you would like those bind variables to be created as parameters. You will see this pop up. It is asking us, boss, I can see two bind variables. Do you want me to create them as parameters or not? So if you tick those two, and if you say yes, click OK, then you will notice that two parameters get created. Okay, BU name and a transaction number. So you can move a BU name up, and if you save this, yes, for parameter name again, you can give a default value if you want. Say for example, you can assign the BU as the BU that we used earlier as a default value. And for transaction number also, you can assign default value. And if you want to make them as a required parameters, you can mark them as mandatory. And for each of these parameters, again, you have few options that you can decide or that you can add. Like you need to add a display label. So you select for BU name, add it as a BU name. And for transaction number, you add it as a transaction number. Okay. And you save in this.
Can I assign any values for this parameter?
Can you assign any?
Can I assign any list of values for this parameter?
Yeah, I'll come to it in a moment. Yes, you can. I will come to it in a moment. First, if you try to view the report output, you can see that there are two parameters added now. You can see BU name and transaction number, both are mandatory, and you can see the default values as well. And if you click on view, you should be able to see the output generated. And if you go to table view, what do you see in there? Yeah, you see the same output, but if you go to tree view, you see the parameters as well that you have passed in. But if you look at the parameters, these are like text boxes, right? So you don't know what are the transactions that exist in the instance. So you will, if you have to print a transaction number and if you don't know the exact number, you will have to keep trying out. So it's a text box. You will have to enter the value and keep hitting enter. So if you say 5003, you don't know whether it exists or not. So if you print it, it says it doesn't exist, right? So instead of leaving the parameters as text boxes, you can also pull the BU names and display it here, and you can also pull the transaction numbers and display it in this parameter LOV. You can create list of values for these parameters and display it. But the only person who will be running this data model will be you. Nobody else will care to run the data model that you have built. Okay. So we are going to create a report for this data model, and we are going to register that report as an ESS job. And when business user runs the report, they will be running ESS job, enterprise scheduler service job. And when they run the ESS job, you will attach parameters there also. And for those parameters, you will have to create separate list of values again. So point I'm trying to highlight here is, yes, you can create list of values here and you can attach them to parameters. But don't think that if you create a list of values here and attach them to parameters, it will not get carried forward to ESS job later on when you define it, when you define the report.
Hi, Prasad.
Okay, so, let's.
Yes. Yeah, can you please show me the parameter once more, like little bit? Just high level.
Yeah.
How did you create this parameter? In this SQL, I missed that part. My son came. Yeah. Yeah. How
okay.
did
So in the main query, you will replace the values with a bind variable. So if you put in a bind variable like this.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, they get created. Okay. Yeah. And how do you create a list of values? So you can add in list of values here. You can write in SQL query and you can attach them to parameters as well. but it won't benefit in any way, because in ESS job, again, you define parameters and the list of values you attach there will be a different. So you have to define list of values for ESS jobs at a separate place. But here, if you want to define list of values only for a data model also, you can do it by going into list of values and adding in a query there. So I'll show you a queries that you can use to add in the list of values. And we're going to use these two queries to pull the list of values for business unit and a transaction number. And let me explain this query first. Okay, let's take this out. Okay. So what is it that I'm doing in this query? So I need to create list of values. I need to create list of values for a business unit parameter and a transaction number parameter, right? There are two parameters I have. I have two parameters, BU name and transaction number. So I want to create two list of values and I want to add them to these two parameters. So the first parameter is BU name. So I need to write a query to pull the business unit names and display it in that LOV. So there are two ways you can do that. One way is you can display all the business units that exist in the instance. Okay, let's say there are 100 business units that are configured in this instance. Let's say there are 100 business units configured in this instance. You can display all of them as a list of values. That's one way. But another more appropriate way is display only the business units that this user has got access to. So if you look at Fusion.tech user, if you look at this user, so if you go back, go to setup and maintenance. If I want to figure out what business units this user has got access to, what do I need to do? I need to go to manage data access for user screen, because we've seen that in the security session, right? So how do you give access of a business unit to the users? You go into a global search and you search for manage data access for users. And you search for the specific user and you search with the username. And you can also search for this accounts receivable manager role. So I want to figure out what business units this user has got access to for AR module, for accounts receivable manager role. And when I do that search, I could see that this user has got access to only 3 BUs. So does it make sense to show only these 3 BUs in the dropdown, or does it make sense to show all the BUs that exist in the instance? It makes sense to show only 3 BUs, right, that this user has got access to. So for that, I wrote this query. I came up with this query. So in this query, all I'm doing is I'm looking at the users table. Again, how to figure out the user, how to figure out the table names, how to figure out the join conditions. You will have to use the approach that I have told you yesterday. We're not going to go through that approach for each and every query. So all I'm doing in this query is looking at the users table, and this FND global.username, it's a profile option which has the user details. So this function will return you a username with which you logged in, and I'm querying for users table with that username with which you logged in. And then for that user, I'm looking at the role. So I want to query this table basically. So the table that stores the information that you're seeing in this table in the user interface. And on top of that table, I need to apply 2 filter conditions. I need to apply username filter and I need to apply role name filter. And then I want to pull the BU names here. So the table which stores this information that you're seeing here, it is the user role data assignments table. User role data assignments table. On this table, I am applying 2 conditions. Okay, I'm applying 2 filters. I am applying user filter. So I'm saying a role.user GUID equal to user GUID. And I'm also applying a role filter. So I'm applying the user filter and I'm applying the role filter on this table. Okay, so I'm applying the role name. So for the user with which you have logged in, okay, for the user and for accounts receivable manager role, what are the business units that are assigned to this user? So this value is stored in this table. So there is a table called, there is another view which stores the business unit information. So I've linked it up to get the business unit names. And if I run this query as a standalone, so if I go back to the data model, if I go back to the data sets, and if I add in this query as a standalone query, just to see if the query is working as expected or not. So if you go to the data tab, view, go to the table view, and what do you see in there? You see that the three business unit names are getting printed, right? So what this means is I've run only the first query. So this query is printing only three business units, and these three business units are what you're seeing here on screen. So I'm querying a table which stores the user role data assignments. I'm applying a username filter and a role filter, and I'm getting the business unit names. And I have written a query with that query to pull those details, and I'll be using this to display the business unit values. And for the second parameter, I need to pull the transaction numbers from these business units, right? So what is a transaction table? A transaction table is RA customer transactional table. So to this query, it's the exact same query. All I did is added in RA customer transactional table at the end, and I'm pulling all the transaction numbers. I'm pulling all the transaction numbers from all the BUs that the user has got access to. Okay, so in the first query, I'm pulling the business units that the user has got access to, and in the second query, I'm pulling all the transactions that from the BUs that user has got access to. Okay, and I'm displaying them in the LOB. So let's go ahead and create them as a parameters. And we don't need this data set. We can delete this. I just wanted to show you how it looks like. Go to the data tab and run it. You could see the data printed. And for list of values, let's go ahead and create two list of values. You can say BU name LOB, and you can select SQL query, select FSCM as a data source, and paste in the first query. Save it, add in another list of values, and you call this as a transaction number LOB. It's again SQL query, and in the data source you can select FSCM. And when you add queries for list of values in the data model, you cannot have a description values. You can have description values when you create list of value sources on the ESS job, which we will do later on. But for data model, list of value queries in the data model, you cannot have description columns, meaning you can have only one column of fetched. So what I do is I copy this query and I will take out this BU name, because I can only query one column. I need to only select only one column from a list of value query in a data model. That is the restriction. Save it, and you make BU name LOV as the first one. And what we can do now, you can tag these LOVs to the parameters. So you go to business unit name and you change the parameter type from text to menu, change it to menu. And the moment you change it to menu, you will be able to see list of values in there. Click on the drop down and select business unit name. And do the same thing for transaction number, change it to menu and select leave transaction number LOV as a selected option, and you can save it. So we have created two queries, one to pull the business unit values that business units that user has got access to, and another one to pull the transaction numbers from those BUs. And we have attached them to BU name and a transaction number parameters. So we go back after you add in the parameters and the list of values as well, just come out of the data model and go back into it and edit the data model. Edit the data model again. And you go to the data tab. You see a sort of a drop down now. So if you click on the drop down, you will be able to see the transactions. And if you click on this drop down, you will be able to see the BUs. I've got access to 3 BUs. So that's why I'm seeing only 3. So I can select the BU and I can select the transaction number as well that I want to print. And I can click on view. Okay, so you can click on the drop down and you can select a transaction and then you can click on OK. Okay, so that will print the details. So this is how you add list of values and parameters to your data model. And we will see how to use bursting later on. Probably tomorrow we'll see this option. We have seen how to use data sets, how to use list of values, how to use parameters. Bursting we'll see in tomorrow's session. Even filters and flex fields. So these two options, what we used to do in eBusiness Suite is when you build a report, if there is a complex calculation required or if there is any pre-processing required, what do we used to do? We used to write a PLSQL package and we used to invoke it from before report trigger, right? We used to add triggers here and invoke those triggers or invoke that PLSQL package from a before report trigger or after report trigger. But in ERP Cloud, you cannot use the events trigger feature. You might find this feature available in seeded reports where Oracle was referring to seeded Oracle packages, but we will not be able to use these event triggers or the flex fields option as a developer.
And for sir,
yes.
Can we make the LOV different?
Sorry?
Can we make the LOV, for example, if we choose BU name in the first LOV, can we show only transactions in the second LOV for the, can we make it dependent?
We can make it dependent only at the data model level. But when you create these parameters, but remember when you can make them dependent at the data model level, but you cannot make them dependent at a ESS job level. And the only person you will running this query from here is you or me or the developer. So you can make it dependent here, and the way you make it dependent is you go to transaction number query, and what you do is you add in another join condition and you say BU name equal to, you pass in this parameter name in there. Okay, and so you can say that BU name equal to what is the BU name that was selected in the first parameter. You can achieve the dependency in the data model here, but that is not possible in the ESS job. So instead of creating confusion, I don't get into that dependency creation here because anyways it's not available as a feature in ESS job. Okay.
Okay.
And we have spent so much time, in fact, close to 2 hours to come up with this data model, right? So this is the toughest part with a BIP report. So there is a long development curve involved. So we have spent so much time, we have identified tables, came up with the join conditions, created these parameters, list of values and all that stuff. And just when we are about to think that, yes, we've got all the details and I can print this in a PDF format, if you try to export it, you notice that the output gets generated in a bloody XML format. So if you open up the output, in what format is it generated? It is in XML format. The XML format is absolutely fine if it is an integration, or if it is an extract that you're building wherein you generate wherein you extract a bulk information and you want to pass it on to other system. XML format might be helpful there if you're building a BIP report as an outbound integration. But what am I doing here? What are we doing here? We are creating a report, right? And I want to generate a PDF output. I don't want to see the output in this XML format. So what is XML format? For those of you who are looking at this for the first time, this is how XML format looks like. For every tag, for every attribute, you will have a start tag and an end tag. So say for currency, you have a currency start tag and you have currency end tag. How do I know which one is a start tag and which one is end tag? Start tag will look like this. End tag will be exactly the same, but you have a slash at the beginning. And between the start and end tags, you have the actual value. Okay. And if you have group tags as well, so you have a G1 group and inside the G1 group. So if you look at the groups, we have given the names to the data sets, but the group names are still showing up as G1, G2, G3, right? G1, G2, G3, and G4. You can rename the group name as well. So you can click on the drop down, go to parameters, and you can say G invoice header. You can change the group names as well. And let's change this to GINV lines, so that you know what information is getting displayed in that group. So you click on properties again and you say G bill to and you can change this to G ship to details.